Welcome back. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi arrived in the French city of Biarritz on Saturday. President al-Sisi participates in the summit of the Group of Seven for the year 2019, which is headed by France and is to last for 3 days. The visit of President al-Sisi comes upon an invitation from French President Emmanuel Macron. President al-Sisi is to present the African causes before the G7 summit. A working session regarding the partnership between the G7 and Africa is to be held. 24 delegations, including US President Donald Trump, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and Prime Ministers of Japan, Canada and Britain are to participate. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson makes his debut on the global stage at the G7 summit. Security, development, combating illegal immigration, inequality and facing the usage of the internet in the terrorist operations are among the most important files. Human trafficking and boosting democracy are also among the basic causes of the summit. The summit host President Emmanuel Macron has invited leaders from Asia, Africa and Latin America to join them. France has already decided that there will be no final communique. France will deploy more than 13,000 police officers backed by soldiers to keep protesters away from the summit venue. Macron will host a dinner on the waterfront on Saturday before the leaders get down to talks on Sunday and Monday. Egypt and France have maintained distinguished relations on the political, economic, cultural and educational fields. In this regard, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi participates in the Group of Seven summit known as G7 upon an invitation from the French President Emmanuel Macron. Presidential spokesperson Ambassador Bassam Radi said that the G7 will discuss various international topics, most importantly terrorism and counter-extremism. Here's the story.
Egypt and France have witnessed distinguished relations at all levels since President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi took office to achieve the aspirations of the two nations. The two countries have strong diplomatic ties based on continuous consultations and coordination towards several issues of mutual concern. On October 24, 2017, President al-Sisi paid a 3-day visit to Paris, during which he met his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron and other senior officials. The president's visit to Paris was his third since taking office and the first visit to the Élysée Palace since Macron took office. The two leaders had discussed the means of fostering bilateral ties in the cultural and education fields. On January 28, 2019, President al-Sisi and his wife had received French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife at Cairo's Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace and started a closed session of talks. The French head of state began a 3-day trip to Egypt with the first stop at Aswan, where he visited Abu Simbel Temple. Macron's visit coincided with the start of France-Egypt 2019, which was launched earlier this year by el-Sisi and his French counterpart to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the opening of the Suez Canal. El-Sisi and Macron also witnessed the signing of a number of agreements between the two countries to develop education, social protection, health, transportation, foreign affairs, trade, culture and youth issues in Egypt. This was Macron's first official visit to Egypt since assuming office in 2017. Meanwhile, on 21st of January 2019, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with French Minister of Economy and Finance Bruno Le Maire in Cairo over economic ties and bilateral relations. The meeting tackled the maximum cooperation in the sectors of health, renewable energy, transportation and logistics. Both countries are showing understanding regarding the situation in Libya, as President al-Sisi stressed to his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in recent phone call his rejection to all forms of foreign interference in Libya's internal affairs. Al-Sisi and Macron backed the UN's call for a ceasefire in the war-torn country and to resume negotiations between the conflicting sides. France always stressed the appreciation of the Egyptian president's leadership, which has guided Egypt from difficult times to its current state of stability.
Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli held a meeting with the Minister of Investment and International Cooperation, Sahar Nasr, to review preparations to organize Africa 2019 conference. The conference will be held at the new administrative capital under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi from November the 22nd to November the 23rd. The meeting focused on Egypt's role in the African continent during the Africa 2019 conference, which is considered one of the major investment gatherings in the continent. The Prime Minister praised the ministry's efforts in developing the current free zones and establishing new investment zones. Egypt's national carrier continues the air bridge to bring back Egyptian pilgrims after performing Hajj. The carrier said that it is operating 22 flights from the airports of Jeddah and Medina to transport 4,800 pilgrims. The carrier has transferred 40,000 pilgrims until now, and its flights are continuing until the 5th of September. Regionally, Syrian government forces